Good afternoon, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of the Tuesday Live Mailbag Show. One of your favorites, one of my favorites. Absolutely love doing this one. Love the fact that people get excited for the mailbag. The live participation for the mailbag is always off the charts because it is a dialogue. It is about you interacting with me and me interacting with you. The way in which the mailbag goes, as per usual, is I have a list of previously submitted questions that came in to me either via Twitter. As you can see, my Twitter handle up here. Send out that message Tuesday mornings asking for your mailbag questions. But if you come up with a mailbag question at any other point during the week, you can always send it into 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. Take note of that address because I actually want to start off today's show on a little bit of a different note. And I want to welcome some submissions in the future, if you will. I'm teasing that right here. But first, I want to get to those of you that are here in the comments. Obviously, appreciate anybody here early on in the live. Mikey Brown coming in. Maybe this is the new name for the defense, the Golden Wall. I tell you, I really like the Gold Rush, but we took that name and assigned it to the cheerleaders of the squad. It's hard to then reclaim that for the defense, but it seems fitting. The Stivers Niners 209 show coming in. Rob, we need to beat the Falcons and beat the Chiefs to revenge the Super Bowl 54. And guess what? Patrick Mahomes is going up against a top 3 defense. Yes, he is. Love it. Beast Mode Gaming coming in to say Atlanta will be tough to beat since we need to break the curse. Kim Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, costly win on Sunday. It was. A lot of injuries out there. Absolutely paid the price for the victory. That is football. We will get to the injury topic, though. That came in as one of the previously submitted questions. Raphael 5629ers coming in to say, what's up, Rob, sneakerheads, and everyone. Obviously a sneakerhead here on the channel. Raphael got a question from you later on. Darren coming in. What's up, Rob? Raphael 562 and the faithful. Let's get it. Alan Eliza, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob Shue, what do you think of the release of Marlon Mack means? And hello, Rob, sneakerheads, and everyone. Love the mailbag episode, Rob. Debo that like button. Appreciate the deboing the like button comment there, Alan. And the Marlon Mack, I think it shows that Tevin Coleman has re-arrived. 2019 Tevin Coleman is here, and I'm with it. He earned the trust of Kyle Shanahan, and it's pretty obvious to see that he deserved that trust. JMac49. JMac49 is here saying, what's up, Rob? And sneakerheads, we got gold-blooded in the building. What up, Rob and faithful? Hey, Rob, I felt I saw Jimmy, who first got here and was playing for a contract, loose, free-throwing, and calm. I like it. What say you? Jimmy seems to be feeling it right now. And hey, I think he should continue to be cool, calm, relaxed. When Jimmy tightens up, much like when Kyle tightens up, it is a bad recipe for the San Francisco 49ers. Both of those individuals need to stay loose in this one. Tom coming in to say hello. Jesus coming in. Where are the Niners training on the East Coast? They are at the Greenbrier, which they have stayed at before. The Greenbrier they have been at last season is where they stayed over. CJ Gray, sneakerhead here on the channel coming in to say, yo, Rob, CJ, good to see you, my friend. CJ was at the game last week. He saw the blowout in Carolina. Moses Martinez coming in. Rob Shue watching the Falcons play. They are so vulnerable on both sides of the ball. It sets up to be another kind of a trap game. Hopefully the Niners are up for this one. Come in and just run away with it so that we can rest some starters in this one. We are going to get on that topic later of resting starters. So the mailbag works like this for anybody that's here for the first time. By the way, if you're here, hit that like button for me. Do me that favor. Amplify my signal. Turn up the volume to 11. Hit the like button for me if you enjoy the content. But we're going to get into this mailbag. What we do is we go back and forth between the previously submitted questions and those that you ask live here in the chat. If you're asking them live here in the chat, do me a favor and put @Rob before the question so that I can see that as I'm scrolling through the comments. It helps me out greatly. I teased this earlier, but I want to start on a slightly different topic. It's not a mailbag submission. This one is inspired, and it was an inspired topic by JMac49, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But JMac, if you're watching, this one comes out of the image that you sent my way. I want to start with positivity. I think everyone knows that positivity is a focus on this channel, that it's something I believe in pretty wholeheartedly. I think you've heard me speak about it I think you've heard me speak about it from the heart as well. And there's intention behind that for me. It's necessary in my life right now. And I'm guessing there are people who tune into this show that benefit from those vibes as well. There's plenty of negativity and hate in this world. Do we really need to bring it into our fandom as well? That's a resounding no from me. No, I do not need to drag hatred and negativity into my football fandom. I don't have time for that BS. I can't handle too much negativity. It spins me out. I'm not a Niner faithful to feel bad. I'm here to feel good. Let's also call out last year, this channel was one of the last ones with hope and optimism. Many others had switched their tunes. I mean, hell, even I was doubtful of my positivity being misplaced at some points during last year. But how did that turn out? Was the positive outlook we had on this channel proven to be the right one? Damn right it was. Hell of a special ride to the NFC Championship game. And I'm sorry if you can't appreciate how much fun the end of last year was without getting down about the fact that we didn't win at all. If that's the case, I feel kind of bad for you if you can't appreciate it. Do I wish we had gotten the 6th Lombardi? Of course I do. Of course I do. But that run was something, man. And we got to live in it. Flash forward to this year. It looked bleak early, and it may look bleak yet again at some point. But we keep the faith here. We believe. I believe. Because it's more fun for me that way. And I hope it's more fun for you as well. So this one, again, goes out to JMac49. Because this just, I don't know, it hit me just right, man. And I hope this hits all of you as well. The energy in that photo is just awesome. Look at that joy. Look at that connection right there. Father, daughter. It reminds me why I love this game. Growing up, my dad worked quite a bit. He was really great at what he did. And that meant that he worked hard and he worked long hours. And I maybe didn't get as much time with him as I wanted at that time. But those afternoons at Candlestick Park, where it was just he and I, just the two of us spending hours together. And it was the 80s and it was the early 90s. So those games were good. And we often left on cloud nine with huge smiles on our faces, smiles and looks like the ones you're seeing there in that image. So I want to welcome anyone who watches this channel to send in photos of them enjoying a Niners game, especially those with your loved ones, whether that's your kids, your significant other, or even your pets. I want more of this energy. I want more of this positivity. So I say, bring it, faithful. Bring the pictures, bring the images, bring the celebration. I'll try to get them in on different shows throughout the week. I think this is something that's cool, that gives a chance to show faithful other people celebrating the Niners, other people living in that positivity, other people taking joy from this experience, which is what I think the pastime of football is intended to bring, what I think sports are intended to bring to us as individuals, as family members, as a country, bringing us together, not some sort of weird hatred and negativity. I'm just not here for it. And so I'm going to do my part to try and create positivity within the space. So I hope that you all enjoy this. Again, seeing that image was just phenomenal to me. It really did light me up, and I'm thrilled that I got to share it on here. By the way, get that overlay off of there. JMac49, just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for allowing me to put it up on the stream and talk about it. And I hope that other people are inspired to do the same in the future. All right. Fantastic. Let's get back into this mailbag. Starting off with the first previously submitted question. All of you in the chat, remember to hit that @Rob before your questions and hit that like button for me. This first one comes in from Aaron. Says, what's the reasoning for stadiums to have turf over grass? We know the cost is cheaper for maintenance, but the money is there for it. Happy birthday, Steve Young. Love the end of it. Happy birthday to Steve Young, a fellow Libra. You got Rob Shue here heading up on his birthday coming up in the near future. Not the same birthday as Steve Young, unfortunately. I'd like to brag that. But back to the turf question. It is absolutely cheaper and easier to have turf. It's ridiculous, though, that owners are maximizing profits, especially non-football related profits, at the expense of their players. The reasoning is so that you can have multiple concerts and other sporting events at the venue significantly closer to game days because the turf doesn't need to heal. Natural grass takes time to heal itself. And when you have to replace large sections of it or the entirety of the field, it takes time for those roots to grab hold. So it prevents you from having some huge Taylor Swift concert right before your next home game. And that eats into your ability to earn profits from the stadiums. The only reasonable solution to this is collective bargaining. The players' union has to decide that this is important to the health of their union members, and then they have to fight for it. They have to absolutely fight for all stadiums to have natural grass. Apparently, some owners will not willingly walk away from more money to save the health of their players, which in a capitalistic society is, I suppose, understandable, but regrettable at the same time. All right, I want to see what you guys are talking about now, what questions you have in the chat. For those of you that are here asking questions, again, hit me with the @Rob so that I can get into it. By the way, the greatest 49, newest sneakerhead here on the frickin' channel. I am here for it. Absolutely love welcoming in new members to the channel. Welcome. And hope that you enjoy the positive atmosphere that we are intentionally creating here. That is something that is our goal on this channel. George Source coming in. Rob, you think they're going to sit Bosa? I have a feeling that for the 1 week against Atlanta, yes. My gut says Bosa sits this week, and it's probably because the 49ers feel pretty good about beating Atlanta without Bosa on the docket and know he is needed the following week against Kansas City. If you're going to have to lose one of the two games and drop a gimme against Atlanta, if you can then come back and beat KC, you'd feel better about that combination, I think, having beaten KC with Nick Bosa back. Spy Nick Danger doing the good deed. Hit the like button. That was a creepy voice, wasn't it? Quesadilla Thrilla 71 Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, do you think Chris Kosarick gets enough credit? I think he does. I think he and Bobby Turner both get the appropriate amount of credit. What is funny, though, is you don't see head coaching positions really come up for Chris Kosarick. And Kosarick, he may not actually want one. He is very well compensated as a defensive line coach and seems to really enjoy the position group that he works with. So I think he could be a defensive coordinator. I believe that he could be a head coach. I'm not sure he's going to follow that path, and it is to our benefit that he doesn't. Daniel coming in. Rob, what do you think of T.Y. McGill? I can't honestly give you an insightful answer on that. Typically, if I can't, I will bite my tongue. Spy Nick Danger. Rob, can somebody start feeding the Niners some Wheaties? Way too many injuries. I will talk about the injuries later on. I absolutely will. Tim Brown says, Rob, you going to the Atlanta game? I am. Randon and I will both be there at the game. Quesadilla Thriller. Rob, you preaching the truth. I appreciate it. Alan says, Rob Shue, I'm trying to stay as positive in life right now, and I totally agree with you. Appreciate that. I love it that people are in on the positivity. Rob, hey, we beat the damn Cowboys and the Packers. My childhood terrorists, talking about that run that we went on last year. It was so freaking special. Kelt's Chronicles Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Hallelujah, freaking Luya, Rob. Real talk. I like that comment. I like that one. Scott Hill coming in to say, what's up, Rob? Another Sneakerhead here on the channel. Daniel Garcia also wanting to say, what's up? Gold Digger 1849 says, where do we send the picks? 49ers mailbag at gmail.com. Great question. Sorry I didn't put that out earlier. I said it before the segment, but not during. Send your pictures to 49ers mailbag at gmail.com. Absolutely love it. Luke Walsh doing the good deed. Click the thumbs up, Niners fans. Yes, sir. All right, Avatar coming in. Rob, should we try to trade for Christian McCaffrey? We have that question coming up, and it is next. So, Avatar, we are getting into that right now. We'll be back into the comments in just a moment, but hold your horses. Hold your horses, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Gold Digger 1849 as the newest sneakerhead here on the channel. Had to celebrate that first. Had to bring in Gold Digger 1849 and congratulate 1849 on making it to the channel before we get into this question from Avatar. So welcome to the Sneakerhead crew. Avatar says, should we trade for CMC? Well, guess what? We had a question that came in from John B asking just that. This was a previously submitted question. John B sending it in on Twitter says, what compensation would you give up to get CMC or Brian Burns on this roster? So let's start with Christian McCaffrey, because that tackles two questions. Obviously, the huge connecting line between his father, Easy Ed McCaffrey, and Kyle's father, Mike Shanahan. Obvious connections there. You could see Kyle knowing both of them most of his life. You got to assume that there's respect, there's admiration for their work ethic. Easy Ed McCaffrey was legendary in his work ethic. Judging by the talent his son has, you would guess he is also a work ethic enthusiast. The contract. That's one of the sticking points here. McCaffrey's 26 years old, coming off of some significant injuries. And say what you will about those injuries. It's the running back position. Injuries happen, and injuries add up. So feel how you want about how his body's going to hold up. I think that's an unknown at this point, but I'm willing to gamble on that if the price is right. So he's 26 years old. 2 years ago, he signs a contract, 4 years, $64 million. He's due about $20 million each of the next two seasons. But there's a pretty easy exit from the deal that does start in 2023 for any team that would trade for him. This year's cap hit would only be about $4.5 million, what remains of $4.5 million, because of the bonus that's already been paid. And the same is true for the next two seasons, where the bonus comes off of the books for anyone that's trading for them. The Panthers still have to eat that bonus money that they have already paid out. So that's $4.5 million per year in dead bonus money that comes off of the $20 million salary. So it's actually about $16 million each for the new team over the next 2 years. The problem is, what do you give up to get him? What are you going to have to give up in draft capital? We don't have a first rounder this year. We all know why we don't have a first rounder this year. Do we really want to give away next year's so that we don't have first rounders in 2023 or 2024? Would a second rounder even come close to getting this trade done? I'm guessing this is a no-go based on trade compensation, but the Niners absolutely do need to keep picking up the phone, because you never know when there's going to be a yard sale and when somebody's going to get traded for a second rounder when you expected them to get significantly more compensation. He'd be a huge addition to this offense. Flipping over to the other side, talking about Brian Burns. I love the idea of adding another super talented edge rusher. This one just doesn't pencil out for me in quite the same way. We have the ability to continue promoting from within here. I'm super excited about Charles Omenihu, and I feel like a trade for Burns means that the Niners don't sign Charlie beyond this year, and I'd hate to see that. I think we have future stars in both Charlie and the Rook, Drake Jackson. So to me, the compensation, the upcoming extension that would be required to keep Brian Burns around, that's extremely tough to imagine the Niners ponying up for either one of those. Honestly, when I look at some of the players on the Panthers, as that's the first team where you would imagine there could be a potential fire sale, I think I'd be most interested in DJ Moore, and I wonder if he would be cheap to start. All right, getting back into your previously submitted, into the live comments here in the chat. JG says, Rob, my birthday is October 1st. Happy belated birthday, JG. Hey, that's another Libra date, right? Fellow Libra, welcome to the party. Quesadilla Thrilla 71. Rob, loving the positive energy and the enthusiasm. Thank you. Appreciate that. Looking at Darren Worthington. Rob, with Mosley's injury, hated to see it, but you think they start Womack? If Jason Verrett is ready to go, Jason Verrett starts. I think that much is clear. If they slide someone outside, it'll either be Womack or Ambry Thomas. I mean, at the end of the game, they did throw Ambry Thomas in there. Maybe they want to give him a couple more shots. I'm hoping that it is Jason Verrett. I'm hoping Jason Verrett is weak. Too early to say at this point. I think Womack is a very reasonable alternative. Raphael 5629ers sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, will you be at Levi South in a couple of weeks? I will not. I checked off Levi South at the NFC Championship game last year after I had been at Lambeau the week before. Don't have plans to get down to LA. Will be going to the postseason though. So if anything ends up at Levi South in the postseason, count me in. Beast Mode Gaming sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, positivity and be thankful and enjoy our short life. Lift each other, love, and peace. I'm digging the positivity. Digging the positivity. Let's look for those at Rob Shoe comments. JMac49 says, Rob, how about the stiff arm that Juice served up? Yes. Juice looking good. I mean, I'm telling you, Juice looking good. Jeff Wilson Jr. running real strong. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal to see some players rounding back into form. We're going to talk about George Kittle in just a little bit, talking about him having a game that makes it seem as if he is at least on that horizon of, breaking out for the season, because some people predicted he'd have a 1,000-yard receiving season. Some people may have made that prediction, and we will talk about that in a little bit because it's not currently tracking. In case you didn't know, Kittle is not on his way to a 1,000-yard season. Avtar, trying to make the trade for CMC, says, hey, how about 2 second-rounders? Not one, but 2 second-rounders. Now you're talking about taking away this year's second-rounder and not having a pick until the 3rd round of the draft this year. If you get CMC and he stays healthy and you win the Super Bowl, it was well worth it. If anything goes wrong, that's tough. I think I'd still do it. I think I'd trade 2 second-rounders for CMC. Niner Gaming. Rob, the defense is Alcatraz because they lock fools up and corners are left on an island. Man, I like Alcatraz. I really do. That's a good name for the defense. Have you been to Alcatraz? That is a dark, dank place. The greatest 49 sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, how do you feel about Jeff? I got to say, he's looking like a top 10 back this year. Definitely on pace for 1,000 yards, although I doubt he'll get it because of Mitchell's return. I also doubt he gets it. I predicted a 3-headed monster in this season, primarily because in a normal season for Kyle Shanahan, that seems to be the way it works out. That the backs get dinged up here and there. There's a new hot hand that comes on, and you could have a couple of backs that have decent seasons. This year, it feels like Jeff Wilson Jr. and then the return of Elijah Mitchell, as you talk about. Walker coming in. Rob, do you think we will beat the Chiefs? I am staying focused on Atlanta right now. Cannot overlook the next competition. Very important to get up for this game against Atlanta and to win the winnable matchups this year, because we do have a tough schedule going down the stretch. Tim Brown coming in. Rob, are you going to any parties on Saturday night in Atlanta? Actually, get in a little bit later on Saturday. I'm going to try to make it out. Randon and I both probably will try to make it out to any of the Niner gatherings, certainly after the game on Sunday night. Going to be looking for fellow 49er faithful that are frickin' celebrating. Yes. CJ Gray wants to know, what about Tevin Coleman? Tevin Coleman deserves our respect. He got a lot of slander after 2019. People seem to forget that he was running into the teeth of defenses. It was 4 yards in a cloud of dust for sure, but he was running into 8, 9 men fronts constantly on early downs. Very predictable running. And yet, he was pretty consistently picking up those 4 yards, which make it so much easier on Kyle Shanahan to play call from 2nd and 6 than from 2nd and 8 or 2nd and 10 based on an incompletion. When you can pick up those hard-earned yards, no matter what the defense is doing, that's tough. That's tough there. I'm telling you. Darren Worthington, Rob, I didn't pick until the 3rd round in my fantasy league, and I'm good. Darren, we may have a slight difference between the fantasy football draft and the regular football draft. Not necessarily, though. I mean, the Niners have a pretty stacked team going into it, so could turn out the same. All right, let me get back to the previously submitted questions. This one came in from Thomas L. Love Thomas L. Constantly coming in with the questions, and I appreciate it, Thomas. Thomas says, Coach Ryans is out the door, and deservedly so. My question is, who replaces him when he becomes a head coach elsewhere? An outsider like Fangio, or will Shanahan go back to the well? And he mentions linebacker coach Daryl Tapp, safety coach Daniel Bullocks. Love to hear your thoughts and keep up the good work. Thomas, appreciate that. My vote, bring back Lord Fangio. The bottom line for me on this one, though, is that I do trust Kyle Shanahan. I think we should all trust Kyle Shanahan on this one. He's proven time and again that he has an eye for talent. Robert Saleh, D'Amico Ryans, Mike McDaniel, all crazy talented, all brought on by Kyle, all also questioned and doubted by many media pundits along the way, each one working out. I was hoping to see the Fangio pairing out of the gate here, if I'm honest, but I'm glad that we had to wait. This could be another calming presence for Kyle. Having Anthony Lynn was a step in the right direction. But imagine the calming presence of having Lord Fangio along the sideline, another trusted voice for Kyle Shanahan. I think it could be a big win in replacing our current stud defensive coordinator in D'Amico, who absolutely, undoubtedly deserves a head coaching gig. D'Amico Ryans deserves a head coaching gig this next year. I'll be livid if he doesn't get it. If the NFL doesn't recognize that talent and make him a head coach, I can't think of a more deserving candidate and inspirational leader than what I'm seeing so far from D'Amico Ryans. All right, next one coming in from Russ P. Russ P says, if Jimmy's stats after 4 games were Trey's stats, what would people say? Would people be happy with Trey's performance, or would they be screaming for Jimmy? I got to admit, this question came in after last week's mailbag, but before this weekend's game. So the answer has changed. It would have been a more intriguing answer at the time, but Jimmy's stats as of now are actually pretty good. His completion percentage is a bit off of previous years. Perhaps that's because he's actually taking a few shots down the field at this point, but he's sitting at about 61%, 60.7%. His career completion percentage hovers at 67%, so about 6% off, a 10% drop. Maybe even a few extra throwaways helping Jimmy's efficiency, taking fewer sacks, turning the ball over less, but a lower completion percentage as a result. There's a slight drop to 8 yards per attempt. If he gets his completion percentage back up to 67, that's going to take care of itself. He'll actually have a higher yard per attempt this season if he can do that. The big positive so far is Jimmy's 5-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. That's efficient. It's a small sample size, but I'm optimistic in general, also a realist. I expect Jimmy to throw some picks. I'm going to say, in answer to the question, if Trey had these stats and rushing stats on top of it, people would have been thrilled. I would have been ecstatic, because for Trey, it wouldn't be his ceiling. For Jimmy, I'm pretty sure this is close to as good as it's going to get. For Trey, it would have been, hey, he's just scratching the surface. He's going to keep getting better. Wait until we get into the playoffs. That would have been the messaging if those stats had been Trey's. All right, getting back into your comments here in the chat. Again, do me that favor. If you're watching the show and you haven't already, hit that like button for me. All right, looking for the @Rob comments there. Stivers Niners 209 show says, Rob, I'll take Christian McCaffrey. He's a beast on the football field. Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo, oh my gosh, they will love this guy. CMC would be a great addition to this offense. There is no question in my mind about the fit. The fit is spectacular. And the money is, it's a lot for a running back. It's a lot. And if he's healthy, it's worth it. You don't have to eat the signing bonus. That's something Carolina has to hang on to. If he doesn't work out, there's a reasonable out from the contract. You don't have an exuberant amount of dead money, but the compensation needed to get him may be a lot. It may be a team's willing to give up a first. And if you get into first round compensation, that's tough for me. Avatar, Rob, Kyle and Coleman will be motivated to play against Atlanta. That's true. There is motivation there, added motivation for both Kyle Shanahan and Tevin Coleman. Revenge game coming. Because remember, 2019, Atlanta got their revenge on us. Jaguayo 56 coming in with the super chat. Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, got to contain Mariota. Less penalties, no turnovers. The efficiency has been good. Have to lean on that efficiency going forward. A defense like this, even down the starters that we are so far. And let's be clear, this defense is down, 5 starters? You're down Bosa. You're down Eric Armstead. You're down Javon Kinlaw. You're down Jimmy Ward. You are down, now you're down E-Man. You're down 6 because you're down Azeez Al-Shire as well. 6 out of 11 players from the starting defense down. I still expect this defense to dominate. That's how freaking deep this team is. Dr. Jaspreet coming in. Rob, so Mason's still not ready, huh? Our running backs played great, but think we should get the youngsters in so that they can get experience. I tend to agree. And you can't fault Tevin Coleman. To Tevin. My man came in and balled out. So it's a question of who you're taking the touches away from. It is clear at this point that there's some type of lack of trust or a lack of willingness to lean on the rookie at this point. It could very well be pass protection, that his pass blocking is not up to snuff so far, but we have seen the talent in the run game. So that's what you have to maximize. Hopefully we have a chance in some game where we're ahead by some margin for him to come in and prove himself. Because it's my belief that Kyle Shanahan needs to definitively see with his own eyes that a player can do it in real time. Typically for young players, the only way I've seen that happen is either they come in with the draft stock, like a Nick Bosa, or they come in and there's an injury in front of them. They're given a chance to shine, and they do. So those are the instances where it feels as if Kyle Shanahan has admitted it's time to play the rookies. I don't know that we're going to come down to that particular conundrum with Jordan Mason. I don't know that there's going to be injuries in front of him. I hope that there aren't. I hope that he gets a shot at the end of a game that we are up big in. Quesadilla Thrilla 71 Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, do you think if we had Trey, we would have the same record? You know, I try to stay away from rewriting history and attempting to predict what could have happened, because the butterfly effect is so real that, you know, one player not getting injured changes the trajectory of everything else. And I do think we were capable of winning all of these games with both Jimmy and with Trey. This team was good enough to beat everyone that's been on the table so far. Could have been 5-0. Could have been 5-0, but we're not. And so that's kind of the point I'm getting to around the butterfly effect. If I were just looking at the talent on this team, I might say that they could have won all 5 of these. Now, I know I predicted that the Niners would be sitting here at 3-2, but I had them beating different teams, losing to different teams. I had them beating Chicago, beating Seattle, and then obviously winning this last week against Carolina. But I admittedly, with Trey starting, predicted that they would drop the game to to Denver with Russell Wilson, who I'm attributing to Seattle there. And then obviously the Rams, because I thought both of those teams were going to be better to start this year. Both struggled out of the gate. I could see both being contenders, playoff contenders towards the end of this season. I'm not ready to give up on Denver yet. Certainly not ready to give up on LA. I think we're going to have a tough out against them coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm willing to say, yes, we could have very easily been at 3-2 with Trey. Darren Worthington says, Rob, wasn't Fangio's defense a 3-4? Would you change the defense? Plus, I reckon he's an old school coach. I think the defense feeds off of a younger coach. Thoughts? I do love the energy of DeMeco Ryans. I do think the defense feeds off of him. That said, a technician like Vic Fangio, I'd be hard-pressed to say no to that. And no, I would not want to switch up the defense. It's a fair point. I just don't see any other exciting names. It would be a promote from within. And like I said, I will trust Kyle if he does that. If Kyle has his eye on someone that is already in the ranks, he believes can step into DeMeco's shoes. Kyle's been right about that to this point. I will trust if he makes that call from within the organization. John B. coming in. Rob, I think playing against Trey in practice last year and this offseason will help playing against Mariota. I love Mariota, being a Duck fan, but he isn't Trey. No, he's not. And he is a mobile quarterback. The 49ers struggle with mobile quarterbacks, but you're right. We have had greater practice against them since having Trey on the team, particularly last year when he was healthy for the vast majority of the season, able to run those practice team reps. Clearly not doing that now. If he were healthy right now, he'd be starting for this team. But the defense, even down some players, I feel good going up against Atlanta. All right, let me get back into the previously submitted questions before I come back into the chat answering your questions live. Again, if you're watching now and you haven't, please hit that like button. Let's go on to Dr. J. Dr. J says, injury Kyle. Should Kyle start to rest top players more often, for example, versus the Falcons, and play more rotations in the future? Why every year, Dr. J? Dr. J, I can hear the sadness in that question, and I feel it. I feel it myself. First, let me agree. This is a common theme for the Niners. We have to talk about it each year because this team has been just a little bit snake bit for a while now. But we also have PTSD as Niners fans because of that. The last couple of years hasn't been quite as bad. Injuries are a regular occurring issue in the NFL. Injuries on turf, especially. The Niners get mentioned on those lists of so much money being on IR because some of those players are top paid players at their position. So they have premium salaries. Anytime a premium salary ends up on IR, it's going to skew those numbers. It becomes it pulls the average in one direction. All that to say, it is an issue for the Niners, but in recent years, I do feel like the luck is closer to the rest of the league, still a little bit leaning away from the Niners as far as bad luck goes, but closer to what everyone else is dealing with. And the answer to the question, should Kyle take measures to protect players? This is the interesting part of it. Yeah, he should, when possible. When possible. In a blowout, get your players out. Now, that said, you know that there's only so many players active on game day, and you can't rest everyone. That's just the facts, that even your second string guys have value. One of them could get injured while they're out there. You can't take everyone out. You can't wrap everybody in bubble wrap. But I understand when it's a blowout, the temptation as a head coach. There's a temptation to want to let them hit the contract escalators, to set sack records by continuing to play against teams that are struggling. When you've got a team up against the ropes, you might be able to rack up 3 late game sacks on them, right? You think Nick Bosa wants an extra sack and a half to pad his numbers before that next big contract? Absolutely he does. So a guy like that's going to be leveraging to try and stay out on the field. But as the head coach, you have to do what's best for the team. That said, looking at this last game, it was not out of reach when E-Man got injured. The Panthers were down just 2 scores at that point. They had the ball. One quick strike, it's a game. What's there, 4 and change left in that game? 4 minutes and change, down by 15. One score, down by 8. You're in it. You are in this thing. So at that point, you can't take players out. So Kyle should be careful when he can, but you can't protect everyone. It is football. All right, getting to the question from Ron D before I come back into the chat, answering your questions live. It says, why has it taken so long to get George Kittle back into the rhythm of the offense? Ron, great question. Why has it taken so long? It felt like Kittle was actually involved this past game. That was the start to the rest of Kittle's season, if you ask me. I mean, let's be honest, though. The targets the last 3 games have actually been reasonably consistent from game to game. It's just that the game against Denver was so atrocious that it didn't feel like Kittle was getting involved. So he missed some time, right? Obviously, you have to call out that Kittle had the injury to start the year, caused him to miss the first couple of weeks. On top of that, on top of sitting out, it left him out of game shape. He needed to work himself back into form at that point. So you knew he was going to have to knock the rust off then. Not only was he rusty against Denver, the rest of the offense was crap. So basically forget that game, take it off of the books because, we weren't going anywhere on offense, even though he did have 4 catches in that one. And then the last 2 weeks, now we're looking at the emergence of George Kittle. If he had caught the touchdown pass last week, we would have called that his breakout game. We would have been talking about it. We would have said, George Kittle is back. Here we are. This is the Kittle we've been seeing, but he missed it by 2 inches. 2 freaking inches. My vote is that Kittle continues to improve, still has himself a year. I teased this earlier, said I was going to talk about this. Here it is. Call me crazy. I still think he comes close to a 1,000-yard receiving season. I predicted a 1,000-yard receiving season. I think he falls short of it now, but I'm still saying he gets really close to it. And I know that's seriously crazy on my part because of what he's tracking to do right now. Go to ESPN, look it up. It's pretty laughable what they're projecting his stats to be right now. But I see some big games coming up for George frickin' Kittle. All right, we got a couple more of the previously submitted questions, but I need to get into the chat to answer those that are here live. Absolutely appreciate those that are here live. Dr. Jaspreet coming in. Rob, hate to see Matt go. Wanted to see what he could do for us. Signed Sam Sloman for a temporary solution. Any word on his skill set? Is he reliable for a few games? Cannot speak to Sam Sloman yet. We'll do some research on that. Hopefully we'll get into roster moves tomorrow on Between Two Beards. Randon and I will look to cover that on the show. Alan Eliza Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob Shue. Do you think Jimmy G will have a deep bomb to Danny Gray? Kittle, that like button, you all. Man, I sure hope so. I liked seeing the toss-up to Danny Gray. Surprising to see J.C. Horn running right with him on that one. You can't give up on the young gentleman. Just because you had imagined pairing Trey Lance with Danny Gray as this magical combination, someone that could consistently push the ball down the field, someone who's going to spread this defense out. Well, you don't have that anymore, but it doesn't mean that you can just allow Danny Gray to go unused. The man has wheels, the man has speed, and speed kills. Jimmy is clearly attempting to push the ball. Kyle Shanahan has to keep that page in the playbook. Quesadilla Thrilla 71. Rob, I read today that Wilson got a little nicked up. So to go along with the previous Jordan Mason question, do you think he should be rotated in before Wilson gets worse? Shanahan doesn't seem to hold up when somebody's injured. I mean, look at Elijah Mitchell and the usage last year. There were games where it didn't seem like he was going to play. And then when he did play, he was leaned on heavily. So Kyle Shanahan, when he trusts you, he trusts you. He just keeps on trusting you. It is wild to me, that difference between, hey, you're on the field, you may be nicked up, but I'd rather have you out there than, someone else that I don't quite trust yet. It is a little funny. Jaguayo 56 says, Rob, your camera's a little out of focus. That's a strange, let me know if that's still the case, whether my camera is out of focus. It doesn't look like it on my end. But I'd be interested to see if anyone else sees that as well, or whether it was just a blurry moment for the internet connection. Hit me with that. Sai says, nothing wrong with video. It's your connection. That's what I wondered. There. All right, looking for those at Rob comments. Celts Chronicles Sneakerhead here on the channel coming in. Rob, maybe lack of trust has nothing to do with it. Is it impossible to think Kyle has an unconventional mind and is simply saving Mason for later? No. Kyle Shanahan plays chess, not checkers. It's fair to wonder whether he would gamble that. You can't afford to lose games in the NFL. I think Kyle Shanahan is that old school mentality with his father that you do whatever you can to win today's game. And I think that's evidenced by seeing a guy like Elijah Mitchell coming off of injury, getting used until he's run into the ground and then not being able to go that following week or missing practice again. He does seem to do what's necessary to try and win games in the here and now. And there's some merit to what you're pointing out here, that could be an effective strategy. If I were guessing, I probably would not say that's what I believe to be the case. I like this. Potabo Hammer coming in, repping PDX. Portland in the house. That's right. We are representing Portland always on this channel. The greatest 49 Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, what are your thoughts on Jackson this week? I think this might be his breakout game. 2+ sacks. I talked about it earlier. I think that Drake Jackson is a future star on this team. I absolutely believe he is capable. I made a big prediction about the number of sacks he was going to end up with at the end of this season. I still think that it is possible. I'm seeing the bend in him. I'm seeing the ability to get around the edge. I'm seeing the bull rush. I'm seeing enough efficiency to begin giving this young man greater snaps, being able to play the run game, doing all the right things while on the field, earning himself greater playing time. And you already know that he is a physical specimen, that athletically speaking, he's a bit of a freak. I mean, at his size, being able to do that backflip is insane. Ryan Anthony, Rob, a lot of people blame Shanahan for injuries, but the fact is all these players love this team and give 110%. There will always be injuries playing as physical as they do. They really do love this team. Watch the post game of Jimmy Garoppolo going up and hugging John Lynch. Watch the post game of Trent Williams walking with his arm around John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan coming off of the field. The players do love this team. They do respect Kyle Shanahan. I know that the fans want to get upset about Kyle Shanahan in regard to the injuries, And I will be honest, there are times where I'd be critical of that as well. This is not one of them. What happened to E-Man and what happened throughout that game, nothing in there says to me Kyle Shanahan was at fault. Darren coming in, Rob, remember what happened in Detroit last year when they rested the defense? That was the start of a cardiac arrest. Yes, we all had a heart attack when they tried to take everybody out. You can't do it in the NFL. Can't do it. Beast Mode Gaming Sneakerhead says, Rob, it's football and it's business for players. Most of them get incentives based on the games, example, sacks, catches, etc. Exactly. They want to stay in. These players don't want to come off the field. They want to earn their next paycheck. Let's see, Jaguile56 Sneakerhead here on the channel with the super chat coming in. Rob, with Kinlaw, Armstead out, good play from depth. Have to have good play from Kevin Givens. Have to have good play from Hassan Ridgeway. Need the interior D-line to be stout coming up. And yes, I think we have the talent on the edge, but we have flexibility in players that can play both inside and out. Charles Omenihu is one that can play inside and out. Eric Armstead, when healthy, plays inside and out. You've got, man, I am scratching on the name. Oh, goodness gracious. He was the star of 2020. Somebody will hit me in the comments on it. But yes, we have players capable of playing both inside and out. We're going to have to lean on some of those because of the specific injuries along the defensive line. Quesadilla Thrilla 71 Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, is it just me, or does Jimmy's arm shoulder look like it's getting stronger? He's certainly slinging it better than I've seen in a while. I'm hesitant to say that any sort of a miracle happened because of a surgery or anything like that. But hey, he is throwing the ball deep. He's taking some chances. He's being efficient. If this Jimmy keeps it up, this team is dangerous. JMac49 Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, thanks for putting up the pick and the positive words. My daughter was thrilled. Keep up the vibes. I'm here for that, JMac49. I am thrilled that your daughter was pleased. The facial expression on her face it moved me, and it brought back memories for me. And I hope that you and she have many future opportunities to spend Sundays and Monday nights and Thursday nights together watching football, building those memories. I know what they mean to me some 30 years later, and I can guess that's going to be the same for her, that she's going to carry these moments with you forward. And that's why, having these positive moments in the game is that much cooler. It's that much better of a memory, speaking from my own personal experience. Man, looking for those Rob comments. Austin Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, how do you think D'Amico will change his defense without a lot of major playmakers this week and even the rest of the season without Mosley? Thankfully, you have a lockdown corner on one side in Mooney Ward. Because of that, it gives D'Amico a bit of freedom in the schemes he's able to use to protect the other side of the field. So once Jason Verrett comes back, and I'll be honest, I don't expect Jason Verrett to be ready this week. I'm guessing it does take him a couple of weeks to round back into form. I think it is reasonable to think that it could be an Ambry Thomas. It could be a Sam Womack that is initially tested out there on the side. But you're going to want to provide some schematic assistance to that side of the field because of the pass rush, because of the stud linebackers, and because of the lockdown corner on the opposite side with Mooney. It's that much easier for D'Amico to pull some tricks. The Stivers Niners 209 show. Rob, I love the show and I love the 49ers. Cheers on the win. Cheers to you, Stivers Niners 209 show. Yes, indeed. I'm here for this, Niner Gaming, because there was a question about Brian Burns saying, hey, we should go get Brian Burns. And I get it. Brian Burns is a stud. And if you could trade for him and re-sign him and still re-sign Charles Omenihu and have Drake Jackson, I'm all for it. I don't think you can. And I like Drake Jackson. I like Charles Omenihu. I'm here with Niner Gaming saying that Drake Jackson is our Burns in training. I think that he is a stud. The greatest 49. Rob, I'm glad Jimmy G has been taking shots regardless if they're completed or not. I'm just happy he's keeping the defenses honest and making them think. And yes, it was Kerry Hyder that I could not remember moments ago. I knew someone would come in and remind me. Yes, Kerry Hyder, capable of sliding inside or out. All right. John B. coming in. Rob, fun fact. If Shanahan wins this weekend, he will finally be over 500. He's currently 46-46. Behold, The above 500 mark is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. I am there for it. I will be there in Atlanta. We are getting this dub, John B. I appreciate that. On that note, on the note of the Niners getting above 500, hit the like button for me. Hit the like button as we go back to the previously submitted questions before we close this thing out with your questions live. This one's from Raphael. Raphael A coming in to say, who was the better coordinator against the Panthers? Was it Kyle Shanahan or DeMeco Ryans? This is tough. This is really tough. I immediately wanted to say DeMeco Ryans because, that's my gut feeling. And he's the one who's been so impressive for the entirety of the season by a wide margin. So recency bias is like, hey, DeMeco wins this one. But in this particular game, if I'm just taking this game, one game sample size, the Panthers are a stronger defense and their offense is atrocious for the most part, right? One of the worst in the league, statistically, the worst in the league. Our defense was supposed to beat up on this team, and they did. That was supposed to happen. Our offense was supposed to hold its own, and it felt like they did more than that. We put up nearly 400 yards on a good defense, and that's a big day. Defense was cooking, but gave up some garbage yards. Were it not for that, were it not for the garbage yards, I think the stats on defense might have favored them, and I could have picked DeMeco as my gut wanted me to. Without the pick six, the offense put up 30 points. That's a stellar day. I'll tell you what, if Kyle can get that out of our offense more frequently, we will win a lot more games because of it. All right, getting back into your comments here live in the chat. We got one more coming from the previously submitted, but it is much more of a closing thought, and we're going to hit it at the end of this one. We will definitely hit that at the end. All right, going back to see the @Rob comments here. Okay, we got the 500 one is so exciting. John B, I'm putting that back up because it's just, we're going to get above 500 now, and it's fantastic. Darren, that's the gold-blooded. Gold-blooded says, Rob, is there any doubt Jennings is Jimmy's go-to guy on third downs? I saw this last year. Jennings is a grown-ass man, and he plays like a grown-ass man, and I'm here for it. I'm almost as fond of Jawan Jennings as I was of John Taylor. Like, he plays a complementary role. Don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing Jawan Jennings to John Taylor. John Taylor is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL because he played next to the greatest of all time. It's hard to shine when you play next to the greatest of all time. You become an afterthought. You become someone that people don't realize just how good you were. But I'm saying this about Jawan Jennings is that underappreciated nature. That's what I see there. I'm with you, gold-blooded. Jawan Jennings is so valuable to this team and will be going forward. The ability to create space, get open in tight windows, much like Kendrick Bourne was able to do, is a critical component to this offense. The way that he trucks fools, runs right through them, stiff arms the hell out of them. I'm here for it. That is our brand of football, and it pisses defenses off. Here for it. Robert Davis says, Rob, our team got hit by the turf monster yet again. E-Man and Bosa injured on little more than carpet with thin padding. NFL is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Why has the NFLPA not forced grass? Robert, I hit this earlier in the show. It was one of the previously submitted questions. I am in complete agreement with you, Robert. It is unfortunate that the NFL values a few extra dollars in their pocket over those remaining turf fields. The NFLPA must seize on this as an issue. If they do not, it will never change. We are a capitalistic society. We encourage billionaires here. Say what you want about that. It's the reality. Those billionaires that are remaining fixed with the turf, that's because of the profits. It's because it allows them to host more concerts, to have more other sporting events closer to NFL games. Grass is more expensive to maintain. It's just dollars and cents until the NFLPA decides that it's an important issue and forces it in the collective bargaining agreement. It will not change. SAR 519 Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, Coltrane. Who would have thought this would be solid backup for Wilson Jr. and Mitchell? Running backs are deep. Yes, sir. Tevin Coleman is back, baby. Quesadilla Thrilla 71 Sneakerhead says, Rob, do you foresee Ryans having more blitz packages this week to help the secondary? No, because of Mariota's mobility, I think they will play more containment. And I hope that they do. Well-timed blitzes, yes. I don't think they'll go overboard because Mariota can torch you with his legs if you give him the opportunity. Darren coming in. Rob, even Jimmy G said we need to get Jennings more involved. Jimmy knows what's up. Jimmy knows who his safety valve is. Kelts Chronicles. Rob, we preached all offseason about the depth. Have you ever seen a team this injured with this much confidence moving forward? I say 16-4 in May. I say 16-4 now. Kelts Chronicles. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And no, you don't see teams this decimated still saying, oh, but by the way, we've got a lot of talent on this team and we're going to just keep winning at this point. Nicoya's finest coming in. Rob Shue, is it safe to say that we can rest Nick Bosa for the Atlanta game, depending on the extent of the groin injury, and save him for the KC game? This would be my strategy. If there is any doubt that Bosa can go this weekend, if there is any doubt that he might re-aggravate it, or that the chance of re-aggravation this week is significantly higher than the chance of re-aggravation next week, I'm saving him for KC. I get it that you can't overlook any team, but the depth that we have, Bosa is just far more important than one game. If we've got to lose to Atlanta for Bosa not to re-aggravate an injury and miss 5 weeks, so be it. So be it. Austin says, Rob, Mariota is in for a treat this weekend, 12 sacks in 2 games. Let's just hope that we can keep our trend going. Rich agrees with me here. Juwan Jennings replaced Bourne perfectly. I like that comparison. That was an off-the-cuff one for me, but I do feel it to be very true. Dr. Jaspreet, Rob, Brandon Ayuk needs to be featured more. Fans will say what Kyle Shanahan is doing is working, but what's the point of being stacked on offense if you're not going to spread the ball around? Injuries are bound to happen. They are, and you don't want a player to fall by the wayside. I'd like to see a game where you're a bit more intentional in getting BA involved, much like we saw with Kittle. Jaguayo 56 coming in with the super chat. Rob, disappointed. Jimmy Ward injured on special teams. Shaking my head. That is actually pretty normal, though. I believe Jimmy Ward does play on kickoff units and has. I know that we don't typically know that because the name wouldn't be called, but it's not as outlandish as it sounds, having your starting safety out there on a kick return coverage unit. Sorry, a kick coverage unit. I agree. It's highly unfortunate to lose Jimmy Ward on special teams. And I struggle to blame anyone on this one. I think it's just one of those fluke plays, broken hand. What are you going to do? Oof. The Stivers Niners 209 show says, Rob, can you do the call-in show for free this week? Please do it for the Stivers Niners 209 show. I will attempt to have a fan call-in show in addition to the Sneakerhead show that we do on Thursday. Jaguayo, appreciate you. Always appreciate you. Quesadilla, Thriller, Rob, love the show, the positivity, and the way you get all of us involved. You're the GOAT. I appreciate you, Quesadilla, Thriller. Even came back in to correct the "you are" contraction there. I love it. I love it. All right. There is one thought that I am ending this on. So if you're still watching right now and you enjoy the content, please do hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell notification so that you know when I go live. I have one last comment / remark that I want to bring in. I guess it is a comment. It's not a question. This comes in from Chris L., who sent it to 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. You can always send in your 49ers comments, your pictures that I requested today, 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. Let me get to this thought right here. I liked it. Chris L. comes in to say, the team should be 5-0, but that's football. Gotta move on. Nightmarish start for us fans, and yet all of a sudden, the Niners are poised to run away with the division and compete for the number 1 seed. Let's go. Chris L. First of all, I had to shorten up this clip by removing like 5 O's and 17 exclamation points just so that it would fit on the screen, because the enthusiasm from Chris L. was off the charts on this one. It's just, I started this show with the positivity. I wanted to end this show with the positivity. This was the perfect comment to put on there. I love it. I am here for the positivity. I try to promote the positivity, and I appreciate all of you that reciprocate that positivity. All right, I got a couple of @Robs in the chat. You know I'm going to get to those, but we are wrapping this show in just a moment. All right, here we go. Fable, JVC, Rob Shu. Ayuk seems like he's the kind of guy that will leave for somewhere that says they will prioritize using him if we don't prioritize using him. What do you think? Love the show. You might see that. Wide receivers are common in that regard. Certainly, you've seen our own wide receiver, Deebo Samuel, requesting a trade. I don't think that is out of the question. You have to get him involved. He should be on track for a 1,000-yard receiving season. He is that good. Michael Salazar, Rob, Jimmy literally targeted 8 different receivers and completed passes to 7. He was spreading that ball around. Yes, some people want to see focus on individual players. Right now, the offense is looking efficient. I will take the efficiency. Robert Davis, Rob, love the show. Looking forward to a victory in Atlanta, as am I. Darren Worthington, Rob, I'd actually like to see you on Stephen A. Smith's show with your positivity versus his negativity. What a show that would be, brother. I'm here for it. I am here for it. John B. Sneakerhead says, Rob, if pain isn't an issue post-surgery, have Jimmy Ward wear a club and let him fly around and smash folks back there. I'll be curious to see if they get Jimmy Ward on the field with the club. Right now, the way the defense is playing, maybe you rest him, but you could also work him in some instances, especially, I mean, the man is great in coverage, even if he's not going to be able to pick the ball. Let's be honest, Jimmy wasn't picking all that many to begin with, so the club isn't as big a deal. I'm not taking a shot at him. It's just the reality. Raphael 562 Niners, great show, Rob. Appreciate you, Raphael 562. Appreciate that. Dr. Jaspreet coming in. Rob, bring in Brady next year to coach up Trey. Have him become a consultant or something. If he doesn't want to coach just yet, spend some time in the red and gold, TB12. You deserve it. This is a creative solution that I'm here for. Tom's always talked about wanting to play for the Niners. How about we let him in the building? I just don't think he's going to want to be a coach. I think this dude's going to be a broadcaster or something glorious. You got to put in work to be an assistant coach. I don't know if Tom's going to want to do that after so much work as a quarterback. He might. I'm ending on this one because I'm here for it. I'm here for the compliment. I'm here for the positivity. I'm here for the support. I appreciate all of you. This was a shorter mailbag. Got some things to do this evening. We'll be back on tomorrow between two beards at 5 p.m. Going to be on with Randon McMahon. Randon and I will be together hanging out for the first time in Atlanta. Going to be there in Atlanta. If you are going to be in Atlanta as well, reach out to me. That same email, 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. Let me know where you're going to be. We will probably try to get in a pregame show, post-game show, and hang out with some Niner fans while we are there. Got to celebrate Michael Salazar as the newest member of the Sneakerhead crew. Welcome to the channel. On our way out. Michael, this one's for you. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Until then, cheers, faithful.